Hi, I was looking at your video where you were proposing the differences between an atheist life and a religious life. Though it was interesting, it was full of fallacies in reasoning, showing a lot of gross overgeneralization and stereotyping, and also a lot of um, contradiction to many things you have said in other videos, proving you wrong consistently. Let's begin. You started stating about the Ten Commandments, the commandment against lying. We look at the original biblical language. It says, "You shall not lie in order to harm your neighbor." That's what the original term means. It does not say do not lie to save yourself or to protect human lives. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that. On the contrary, I clearly remember that there were some times in which biblical heroes did lie to protect themselves and their families. You were also talking about outrage as your second point. As you pointed out, it is human nature. It has nothing to do with religiosity. Even religious people, provided they are not fanatically inclined, do feel a sense of outrage. Why could have God allowed this? But that does not mean that they actually believe God allowed it. Let me remind you that there are a lot of great scientists who were themselves deeply religious. Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, Gregor Mendel, and Copernicus, to name just a few. Now, it is normal to feel outrage, whether or not you're religious. But those of us who are religious, in our belief that there's a plan, we have a strong belief that something good will come out of it. We're not like, we don't have that lack of consolation of why did this happen and mourning. We know that ultimately something good is going to happen out of things. Also, we do believe in the cause and effect, and we don't believe that 100% of everything is attributed by God either. That is a gross overgeneralization done by somebody who does not understand the mind of the religious person. We, who are completely religious, also believe in the cause and effect and responsibility. We, for example, if a young man is standing out in the middle of a ghetto and gets hit by a bullet, we don't say, oh, God wanted him dead. We may look at the way he was dressed and say, oh, he was a gangbanger. He was joining with gangs and that. So a rival gang shot him because of his choice of lifestyle. We don't say, oh, God allowed this. No. True religiosity is about responsibility to yourself and to your neighbors. In the same way you were also talking about atheists being the ones doing all the science to save lives. I question that. History proves that the people who did the most advancing of science were really the religious people. Gregor Mendel, for example, discovered genetics, and he was a Roman Catholic priest, completely devout. He just discovered it in his hobby of gardening. Louis Pasteur, who discovered the process of pasteurization, was an avid Protestant minister. He took steps at eliminating the bacteria that killed so many people from unprocessed milk. As you see, it's not about, oh, people are dying because of God's punishment. No, that's what a fanatic would say, not someone who is responsibly religious. You were questioning luck. How would you explain, and don't tell me about the odds of probability, because the odds of probability go completely against it. Luck only applies to Vegas style gaming. Let me tell you one thing that has really happened. This is a true story of something that happened to me. Ooh, I have so many, it's hard to choose, but I'm going to give you this one. About 12 years ago, I was invited to give a presentation, a speech to a youth group. However, I left work late that day, and I did not have enough time to stop by and pick up my Bible and my notes at home. I had to go directly to give the speech. Unfortunately, I did not have my Bible and my notes in hand. I was wondering how I was to resolve that issue. Woe and behold, when I got off the bus and got on the train, where I took 2 buses on the train, I took first bus, then train, then another bus. The moment I got off the first bus and onto the train station, lo and behold, there was the Bible there. I said, good, now I have the Bible, but I still don't have my notes. What verses was I going to use? I don't remember them. As I started paging through the Bible, lo and behold, all the verses I was to read, and exactly those and only those were highlighted. What are the odds? Out of thousands of verses, only the 4 or 5 that I was to use were highlighted. There's no way you can explain that. The only way you can explain that, going back to your wolf hypothesis, your wolf analogy you presented in another time, the only way you can explain that is somebody who knew my predicament had prepared that in advance for me. There's no way you can get around that. If you do, then you're contradicting your wolf analogy you presented in another video. Now, you were saying that atheism helps prevent ridiculous claims. I don't think so. Evolution is proof of it. We shall get into that later. You were also talking about you atheists being facilitated the fact of accepting people for who they are. For the mere fact of being atheist, I don't think so. You're being a hypocrite if you make that claim. You accept a lot of people, fine, that's wonderful. But you're not accepting everybody for who they are, because the moment you find out they're religious, you launch a campaign, such as this one you just launched, the one to which I'm responding to. Don't tell me you accept people for who they are. You're criticizing and with all these straw man tendencies as the video I'm responding to. That's a straw man, and if you're doing a straw man, you're obviously not accepting the person for who he or she is. And don't tell me, you also said that being an atheist lets you let people be true to themselves. That's probably why the society is the way it is in the first place, right now. I have 3 children. Do you have any? Just because I don't, in fact, my 7-year-old son were to slap my 3.5-year-old daughter for no apparent reason, he is still being true to himself. Yet, it is not acceptable, and I would have to give him a consequence for it. As you mentioned, rightfully mentioned, there are consequences for every action. There's cause and effect. And this talk about not accepting people for who they are just because they're being true to themselves is childish. It's like saying, I'm not going to discipline my child because he's being honest with himself. Well, that's a bunch of bull. You were saying that those of us who are religious are not capable of accepting people from other religions. Fanatics don't. I grant you that. But a fanatic will only accept people from their own belief. But an honestly religious person does. I'm a Roman Catholic. Many of my friends are evangelicals. I don't hang with just Catholics, I hang with evangelicals. I go to men's retreat in a completely evangelical group movement known as Forbes. Furthermore, I also have friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses. I used to date a Jehovah's Witness. I know our relationship didn't end because of religion. It ended because she thought I was too lovey-dovey. Go figure. Another fallacy that you point out is about atheism, not about proselytizing. How do you explain your campaigns against intelligent designing the schools? Evolution is not a scientific fact, so don't use that as an excuse. And all the arguments I've seen by atheists, such as evolution and all this coughing, throwing out that yes, you are about proselytizing. This campaign that you launched is, and you title, Fighting Atheists,